Delighted to announce today that G7 finance ministers have, after years of discussions, reached a historic agreement to reform the global tax system to make sure that it's fit for the global digital age, and crucially to make sure that it's fair so that the right companies pay the right tax in the right place. And that's an enormous prize for taxpayers everywhere. It's a very proud moment, and I'd like to thank my G7 colleagues for their collective leadership and for their willingness to work together to seize the moment and strike this historic deal to finally bring our global tax system into the 21st century.
Will this tax reform mean the end of tax havens, and how will the British overseas territories be affected by it?
Well, British overseas territories are fiscally autonomous from the UK government, but what this deal does is ensure that with a minimum rate of tax that we can make sure there's a level playing field for countries and companies wherever they're operating, ensuring that they pay the right tax in the right places at the right time. And that principle of fairness is something that I think is a big prize for everyone.
Do you have an estimate of how much it could raise, for example, for Britain?
Well, this is the first step. This is agreement reached at the G7. We still have to go to the G20 and reach agreement with a broader group of countries. So it's hard to say where the final deal will land.
Does this mean that the UK will abandon its own digital services tax?
We've always been clear that the digital services tax that we've implemented was meant to be a temporary solution until there was multilateral agreement applied consistently around the world. We've always said that is preferable, and when that happens, then obviously the DSTs can be removed. But this is the first step on that process, reaching agreement here today.
What are the next steps on the global tax for this G20, for example, this summer?
Well, as you said, that's the next step. We've reached agreement amongst the G7 today, which we should take a moment to recognise has been talked about by my colleagues, because I'm obviously newer to this, for years and years, almost a decade of discussions, finally reached agreement here today at the G7. So it is a historic moment, but that's not the end of the journey. The next step is the G20 summit, chaired by my colleague Daniele, and we're looking forward to being in Venice next month to conclude these discussions in that group and then beyond through the OECD.